Well, this is the second Sunday of Lent, and the first two Sundays of Lent always have the same type of readings from different passages of the Scriptures. This season is basically a season of purification and enlightenment. Purification from our sins and sinful attachments, and enlightenment in the glory of the coming Easter mystery. Was designed originally for catechumens, those coming into the church at the Easter Vigil, where they'll be baptized, confirmed, and given First Eucharist. And the Lenten practices that they used to share and still do, fasting, and then prayer and almsgiving, are shared by all of us too, in solidarity with them, and because we know that even if we were baptized and confirmed and given First Communion a long time ago, for some of us a long, long time ago, we need purification and enlightenment on an ongoing basis. Now, the first Sunday of Lent, because it stresses the temptations of Jesus, naturally focuses on the need for purification on our part. Led by the Spirit into the desert, Jesus fasted and was tempted by the devil for 40 days to strengthen him for his public ministry. This is just after his baptism by John in the Jordan. We are tempted in the same ways. But the Lord, who was tempted, and Matthew and Luke give us the precise nature of those temptations, never gave in to them. We heard about this last week. We, however, need his strength so that we do not keep giving in to our temptations. What were Jesus' temptations? To provide for himself. He was fasting, he was hungry. The devil tempted him to turn the stones into bread so that he could provide for his own nourishment. Nope, Jesus wouldn't do it. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. To exercise power over others. I will give you the kingdoms of the earth if you will bow down and worship me, says Satan. Nope. You shall worship the Lord your God and him alone. And to presume upon God to spare him the consequences of his actions. Because Satan took him up to the parapet of the temple and said, go ahead, throw yourself down. Surely God will send angels to stop you. You can go ahead and presume on God's mercy. No, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Such temptations affect all of us. And we do have to acknowledge that we've not always resisted them as Jesus did and as he taught us to do and showed us how to do. So we are in need of purification as we approach the Feast of Easter. And that's why we've undertaken fasting, prayer, and almsgiving in solidarity with those about to be initiated fully in the church. Because we're honest. On the second Sunday of Lent, St. Luke presents us with Jesus on the eve of his passion. Sort of like this scene of the Transfiguration mirrors the baptism before his public ministry. Now we hear about his transfiguration on the eve of his passion, his going up to Jerusalem, suffering at the hands of evil men, dying, and then rising for us in our justification. He wants to strengthen his disciples to face what he's going to face, to watch in horror as their friend and master is brutally murdered by a combination of Pharisees, Sadducees, Romans. It's going to be devastating, and he wants to strengthen them to face it. He has, as Luke puts it, set his face to go to Jerusalem. He is determined to follow his Father's will, no matter what the cost. And he takes his closest friends, his inner circle, Peter, James, and John, up a mountain, a high mountain, to pray. The mountain is the symbolic opposite of the desert of the temptations. Going up a mountain is sort of going up toward heaven, a place where heaven and earth meet. So just as Moses went up Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb, and so later did Elijah, Jesus takes his closest friends up the high mountain and invites his disciples into his communion with his Father in prayer, his Father whom he calls Abba, Daddy. But they promptly fell asleep, as they will in the agony of the garden, for that matter. And maybe this is because they lived at a time before we had discovered caffeine. Well, anyway, whatever reason. The disciples of Jesus, and that includes us, are often asleep at the switch. And so we need to wake up, as they did, when things began to happen. In his prayer on the mountain, Jesus is transfigured before his drowsy disciples. His face is transfigured. His clothes become dazzling white. The Latin word transfigured indicates a change, trans, in appearance, figura, and translates the original Greek metamorphe, a change in form or appearance. What the disciples saw was nothing less than the glory of God shining on the face of Jesus. In the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the glory that is Christ by right of his divine sonship appears only at certain moments, such as the Transfiguration, and for a specific purpose. In this case, to affirm to the disciples that Jesus is indeed the Christ, the Messiah, the Lord's anointed, the one prophesied in the law of Moses and the prophetic writings for which Elijah stands. Now Moses and Elijah appear in glory and alongside him and speak of Christ's coming exodus, because his passion, his Passover from death to life, echoes and in a way completes the exodus of the chosen people long ago. The experience of seeing the transfigured Jesus, accompanied by Moses and Elijah, was awe-inspiring, wonderful, and terrifying at the same time. Peter was so bowled over by the experience that he blurted out, "Lord, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," meaning something like, "Let's go camping." Oh, Peter. And Luke tells us he hardly knew what he was saying. Then the voice of God came from the sounds, making that unique declaration, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." It is highly significant that after this declaration from the mouth of God the Father that Jesus is his Son, Jesus will begin to explain to them in the next passage that he must suffer, die, and rise. They'll need this experience to strengthen them. In the radiance of the Son of God, Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets, recede into the shadows, and the disciples see only Jesus. The Transfiguration is a moment of enlightenment, of epiphany for his disciples, and I hope for us. A moment of strengthening for them as they go to accompany him on his last journey to Jerusalem. They're given a glimpse of the glory of God shining on the face of Jesus. For the disciples who will soon witness the horrors of his passion, the Transfiguration is a preview of his resurrection, an anticipation of his risen glory, given that to strengthen them for this ordeal. May that same glory enlighten the hearts of all who believe in him.